Good evening, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The standard disclaimer applies. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure to keep your conversations open to the public, especially with the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight, and on the level. Tonight, as usual, we're soliciting questions and comments from you via social media at Twitter at Mason Roundtable and/or with the hashtag TMR Episode 28, TMR Episode 28, or on the Facebook page under our event invite. Let's go around and do a quick round of introductions. My name is Jason Richards, and I'm the Senior Deacon of Acacia Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia. Let's move on to John Ruark.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Ruark, as usual. I am still a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in Fairfax, Virginia.
And Nick.
And I'm Nick Johnson. I'm a past master of Corinthian Lodge number 67 in Big Time, Farmington.
And it looks like we might have Juan up.
We might have Juan. Do we have a Juan?
It takes a while.
It takes a little while. We'll come back to Juan. Why don't we go ahead and jump right into Masonic news? Our first order of business. Mr. Sepulveda.
Hey, Brother Juan.
Good evening, brothers.
Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Brother Juan Sepulveda from Eola Lodge number 207 in Orlando, Florida, whose computer is his enemy.
Oh, it's good to have you with us. Let's run right into Masonic news. First and foremost, of course, last week the Masonic Restoration Foundation had their symposium. I've been seeing a lot of really great things online. A lot of brothers had a really great time. So John Ruark and I are really excited because next year it's going to be in Philadelphia. So
3 hours away.
3 hours away, so he and I are definitely going to try to make it up there for that because it sounds like it's going to be a really great time. And this Saturday... Oh, go ahead.
Did you see what the Cincinnati Masonic Center has in it? Has a
No.
gym, a pool, 5 lodge rooms,
Ark of the
like,
Covenant,
all kinds of other...
the Holy Grail.
No, I'm sitting there. Hey, it had everything.
A couple crystal skulls.
You just rattled off all the Indiana
I'm
Jones.
sitting there going, I was so jealous. I was like, dude, that was awesome. But
Hey, it looks nice.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, we definitely missed out. But there's always next year, and the Grand Lodge of Philadelphia building is amazing. If you haven't been to it, it's phenomenal, out of this world. You have to go check it out. So this Saturday, the 23rd, we need to go ahead and let everyone know that the Grand Lodge of Indiana is sponsoring the Colts game this Saturday. Go on to the Grand Lodge of Indiana website, and you can buy tickets. The first 400 Masons that buy tickets will actually go onto the field during the pregame show and do a special presentation. So it's going to be a really great event to increase public awareness about Masonry, or at least the Masonry that you can find out about without reading Dan Brown novels or, your favorite conspiracy theorist of the day. So it's going to be a good event. And so, yeah, this Saturday, if you're not watching Doctor Who, go and check out the Colts game sponsored by the Grand Lodge of Indiana. And with that, the next update is the Morristown, New Jersey arson attempt update that Juan actually originally shared on an episode of The Winding Stairs back in February 2013. Juan, do you want to tell us a little more about that?
Yes, I remember this was early when I began The Winding Stairs, February of 2013. I mentioned the news that a man broke into a lodge and he was carrying some jugs of some sort of accelerant or combustible material and started spraying it everywhere. But he got tackled and wrestled by someone who was in the lodge. I forgot the English word for it, pero un conserje for those of you that speak Spanish.
The concierge.
Yeah, like someone who was working, cleaning and watching over the lodge. He actually wrestled him to the ground, and the police arrested the man. Today, the update came a couple of days ago, where this man is still held, but he's held in a psychiatric facility in New Jersey, and he's awaiting trial, which has been set for September 9, where his defense is arguing the case that he was legally insane at the night of the attempted arson. And in his defense, part of the report also documents that he was claiming to be royalty and that his father and grandfather were kings in England. And I don't think that's the case. So
they could have been a Nigerian prince.
It could have been. Which one? I'm waiting on a big cash from a Nigerian prince. I'll let you know as soon as I get it. I send all my documents over. But very quick on the episode 2 of the Winding Stairs, I talk about it, and I used it as an opportunity to remind brothers how important it is for us to have good public relations in our lodges, in our districts. Make sure that people know what we actually do. Not the secret works, nothing prohibitive, but let them know that our goal is to actually help the community, not hurt it. So hopefully we can deter some of these people that have ideas that we are conspiring to destroy society as we know it. And when they get caught, they end up spending some quality time in psychiatric facilities or jail. So not a good idea.
Yes. So just in case you were going to think about burning down a lodge at some point, just don't do it. It's not a great way to go. And that's a great segue into our next bit of Masonic news, which is old-time Masonic radio theater.
I got the screen
John
up.
has that screen shared. This is a new initiative by a bunch of Masons to do some Masonic radio dramas in the styles of the 20s, 30s, and 40s radio series. So it's a really cool idea. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to come out on Robert Johnson's Whence Came You podcast first, and if it gets enough traction, then it might spin off into its own show. But we're really excited. We've been conspiring to write some 20s era commercials for the show, so it'll be really fantastic, and you guys are in for a really good treat. Bill Hosler posted a couple little preview clips in the Facebook group All Things Masonic, so if you want to get a little taste for what's actually going to be happening, go check them out on Facebook.
He's actually got some on the actual Facebook page itself for the radio drama.
Oh, great!
As well, so it's there. Once you find it, we'll put a link to that as well. And the first thing I could think of was, that Robert Johnson did do an old public domain radio series on his Whence Came You podcast about the I lost the name of it, but he broke it into 3 parts and had a nice actual old radio drama from the 30s or 40s, and trying to recreate that style. First thing I thought of was BioShock. If anyone's ever played that game was fantastic, and it has the old 40s music. It has the talky kind of slang to it, the right vernacular. Oh, I can't wait, because that's a really neat style that I think is really kind of cool.
Great. So without further ado, let's jump right into tonight's topic, music and Masonry. Most lodges, if you didn't know, actually have an official officer position that's a musician who's actually installed at the installation as the musician. So the opening question to the group is, what are your experiences with lodges who use music to try to accentuate the proceedings, and what are your thoughts about how music can either help or hinder Masonic ceremonies and proceedings?
If I may, I wanted to mention, at Yola Lodge, we have the pleasure of having one of the past masters, worshipful brother Jody Fales, who he is a musician. He's our official musician in the lodge, and during the ceremonies, during any kind of degree, it adds an element of solemnity to it, and it adds this whole ambience of sometimes mystery, sometimes drama. He's very good at adapting on the fly as to the different scenes. Let's call them that, within different degrees. So I really appreciate having a good musician in it. I think it adds something nice, but as we'll probably discuss, sometimes if not done correctly, it can deter from the actual ceremonies and the actual solemnity of the event.
What does that brother play, Juan? What instrument?
We have, I don't know why we have so many, but we have like 5 or 6 organs in the lodge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they those 60s kind? Like the kind, incense and peppermint, where...
Well, I didn't mention that he's actually like a human octopus, so he plays all 6 of them.
Like
Claps with
Yanni.
the 2.
Oh man, that's awesome.
How about your lodge, Nick?
My lodge does not have a musician. So, when
Ever?
you imagine ever, the thing is,
Okay, fine.
I called it. Oh yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
You have the floor, Mr. Johnson.
Oh,
Yes, you do.
that's a terrible idea. But my lodge doesn't have a musician at all, and it's kind of interesting. It's when there's absolute silence, and usually during the degrees, there's not a lot of talking because we don't have a carpet. We don't have carpet on the floor except for the small section just under the altar, so the sound echoes, and everybody knows that it echoes. So immediately what you do is everybody shuts up because every conversation can be heard in every corner, right? And without a musician, it's a silent degree, and it's good and it's bad. It's good as the candidate because it changes what you don't hear anything except for your own footsteps, right? But for me, I think it's kind of dull a little bit because there's absolutely nothing going on. But I've been to places like traditional observance lodges that do have music as part of their set programs, and I think that it just establishes it's like the idea of opera, where opera was sights, sounds, and movement all at once, right? It was that was the big entertainment, and that's what TO lodges do, is that they do the same thing. There's music, there's papers, there's candlelight, and I think it's a full experience to overload your senses, and I think that's a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have none of that, it's kind of just dead air.
Yeah.
Yeah, John and I actually did something a little bit different.
Well, let me add
last year.
one thing quickly
Go ahead.
about
Go
my
ahead.
mother lodge, Herndon Lodge. We have a pianist, and they just have a nice, short, upright piano, which was nice. Bert's a great piano player. What he does is he does add some things. He mostly does by ear, so he really doesn't have any specific songs or a book that he kind of plays off of, which is also good and bad, too, because sometimes if you're sitting lodge long enough, you hear the same song again. But also, he can come in and out during degrees rather easily of specific songs, usually patriotic songs, something to kind of give a nice good feeling to the room. But yeah, so that was the experience I had when I was getting initiated. Got to hear some of that as we walked around and did our thing. But I'll let Jason talk about his year, because he actually last year was the musician for the Patriot Lodge. So what was that experience like, Jason?
It was a really neat experience, and I'm going to come back to the idea of playing patriotic music in the lodge a little bit later. But as far as the Patriot Lodge was concerned, it was really interesting because John had approached me his junior warden year. He said, "Well, would you like to be my musician?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I could play guitar or bass for you, I suppose, but drums in a lodge just won't work." And so we came up with the idea of doing more of a Masonic DJ type of gig
Nice.
with speakers and an iPod instead of actually having a live musician there. And it turned out quite well because George Mason University, where the Patriot Lodge is situated, has a slogan, where innovation is tradition. So what we tried to bring to the table was music that accentuated what was going on in either the business meeting or the degrees, but was not the traditional classical music that you would typically associate with an organist, playing along to the opening of a lodge ceremony. So I ended up playing a little bit of dubstep. I tried to keep it away from anything that had lyrics. Yes, I did play Masonic dubstep. I tried to do a lot of instrumental pieces because I thought if there was singing going on or if there were discernible lyrics, it would detract from the actual ceremony taking place. So what I was looking for was almost like muzak, which is the music you hear in the elevators, just something in the background to help draw your attention in as opposed to segregating it out from what's going on.
I got to say, one of the best experiences was when you'd have these nice classical covers of modern songs, and it was amazing because you started playing one song during one meeting, and people were taking up the word, and it takes a while, especially if there's a lot of people. So it was good ambience, and you could see people kind of looking around, trying to like, what is that song? What is that song? Comes to find out, it was a very beautifully well done cover of "Welcome to the Jungle."
Nice.
Yes, it's by two cellos.
Yeah, it was awesome. Because
Awesome.
it sounded beautiful, but it was also a little bit of that modern feel to it as well. Fit perfectly, and once you could see people light up once it clicked in their head what it was. Just again, not disrespectful to the fraternity, but it had a nice bit of respectful levity.
And it was a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek approach to the opening of a lodge, a business meeting in a lodge. Because you can talk about things in lodge meetings that are a little contentious, and so it was just a way to introduce that levity into the lodge meeting. One of my favorite things that I instituted last year that sadly hasn't persisted is, of course, Patriot Lodge number 1957 is affiliated with the George Mason University. It's an academic lodge. One of the things that I tried to do was use music to cement that tie right at the outset of every lodge meeting, so that anytime someone comes through those doors, they know that it is the George Mason University, which is the exact reason why that lodge exists. So I was actually able to get a copy of the school song, which was written by a buddy of mine who was in my music fraternity in college, Phi Mi Alpha Sinfonia, and I would play that at the beginning of the opening for the lodge. Every single lodge meeting, just so that everybody knows that, oh, George Mason School song, yes, this is why we're here. It's just bringing us back to the same level to start the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I felt was my best contribution as musician. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it'll come back at some point. So you mentioned something interesting, John, about the use of patriotic themes and patriotic songs. Well, in doing research, I came across Brother Andrew Hammer, who wrote an interesting piece on music in the fraternity, The Art of Forming Concords, Music in the Masonic Lodge, where he goes through a couple different ideas of what music should be played and what music shouldn't be played. And it's very interesting because he specifically states that music should not be of a nationalistic or sectarian nature. So what do you all think about the idea of playing patriotic patriotic songs, patriotic to the United States, when we may have foreign brothers present.
What are the two things we can't talk about in lodge?
Politics and religion.
Right.
And
So
chicks.
And chicks. I can't. Well. So, but I guess I get his point, right? That it makes perfect sense that if you have traveling brothers that are from another country, it could be
for
the
me.
wrong way. I don't know.
Well,
But
for me,
you have-
I'm the kind of person who wants to get rid of the American flag from lodge rooms. So I'm just one of those. But I've sat in a lodge one time where it was all of a sudden the person at the organ is playing and it goes, "Onward, Christian soldiers." I'm going, "Marching as to war." I'm like, can you play that in here? Did I get a command all of a sudden, or what's going on? And I mean, it got uncomfortable fast.
Wow. I mean, I can see that. It could be very uncomfortable. Juan, what do you think?
Well, he brings a good point. The whole presence of the flag within the lodge, and in some lodges, it's not just the presence of the flag; it's the actual pledge of allegiance before the lodge opens for labor. And I personally enjoyed the fact that there was patriotic music coupled with the actual presentation of the colors west of the altar, but I completely understand it might not be ideal for someone who is from another country, but I'm sure that's a topic that could be very, very incendiary, because you'll have, I guarantee you'll have someone listening to this right now that's going to say, well, if they don't like it, they can go back to their country.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's kind of the mindset that I have. Is I have a deep respect and appreciation for a lot of different cultures, and if I were to visit a lodge, say in England, and they were to have music akin to God Save the Queen, I think I would consider that a really neat experience, because it's a way for them to pay homage to the country that allows them to meet and act as Masons relatively uninhibited. And I see it as the same privilege that we have here in lodges in the United States. America.
We should have an episode about it.
Yeah, right.
We do.
Oh man.
Well, if you go back to the instead of trying to determine what you shouldn't play, I think there should be some ideas of things to kind of fall back to. I am a big fan of having kind of classical music as part of that lodge experience. Mm-hmm. The first time I heard music in lodge was at AW22, Alexandria, Washington, number 22, which is Worshipful Andrew Hammer's lodge, and that was a neat experience because as they opened up the Bible and everything, they had music playing, classical music. Very nice experience. And I think that's something to emulate. So what's really been interesting is during my research for this topic, I found that there were people throughout the time that have actually written music just for the purposes of lodge. The greatest of which, in my opinion, is Brother Mozart. So for those who don't know, I'm a big Mozart fan as far as his ties to the fraternity and how it relates to his music. So I actually have bought a CD full of all his, not all of them because he's written so many specific Masonic tunes, many of which he actually wrote before he was a Freemason. So that was kind of cool too. He loved and respected the fraternity that much that he actually started forming these kind of odes and hymns and kind of thing early. So he actually wrote songs about a fellow craft, about being a Master Mason, Masonic funeral odes and marches. And so there was a lot of content out there, and it's a shame that some of that's been lost through time and that we don't kind of institute those things, especially how he's usually one of the top 10 famous Freemasons that always come up. Why aren't we reusing a lot of his work here for our degree work? I think that's, if you listen to it, it's beautiful. So most of it in German, but it's a nice touch.
Full disclosure, John tried to get me to play Mozart in his lodge. I didn't do it.
He's the worst musician we ever had.
I know.
And the
Also the
only.
best. Also the best.
I want to know what Mozart dubstep sounds like. That's what I want to know.
Ooh.
I
I'm
think
sure
I
we can
have
find it.
some.
Homework project.
Yes, I will look into that for you. So, interestingly enough, there have been a lot of famous musicians out there who have been members of the Masonic fraternity. I actually came across a really interesting article that I'll put up on the show notes about the influence of Masonry, specifically Prince Hall Masonry, in the 1950s jazz movement.
Yes.
And it was a really neat article that talked about several major players in the jazz movement being affiliated with Prince Hall Masonry. We're talking about Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Louis Armstrong. So it's just music is really fantastic, especially when you merge it into the ideas that we have as a fraternity.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned. Well, I got it. I logged in late, but I haven't heard about the liberal arts and sciences mentioned. Music being one of those important components of our our journey up the winding stairs. So when as a point of interest, when I began the winding stairs, that was my entire idea. I wanted to explore for myself those steps. I wanted to actually go step by step up the winding stairs and spend a little bit of time on each step, familiarizing myself and hopefully helping other people familiarize themselves with each one of those steps.
Dude, that's amazing. You and I thought the same way.
Cool. So music being one that it's genetically part of me because my mother was a musician and so is my sister. My sister is an amazing percussionist, but I'm not even gonna pretend. I can paint. No, I'll keep it at that. I can paint.
You can play the kazoo.
I clap and out of sync. But the cool thing to me is that I still have a connection with music. Even though I cannot produce music, I thoroughly enjoy the power that music has upon me and the power that music has to lift up my spirit whenever I'm down. The power that music has to inspire me to create. I can tell you the music I was listening to when I created each of the paintings that I have in my collection. And those songs and the melodies, they are part of the actual palette if you think about it that way. And in the same regards, our life is the same way. I'm sure you hear a song now that you haven't heard in 20 years and you know exactly what you were doing 20 years ago. And you can even, I'll venture even to say that you'll remember where you were, the things that you ate at that, in that period. So music is really, really powerful to connect you to memories and connect you to past experiences.
So if that's the case, it's an interesting point of discussion. Do you think certain Grand Lodge jurisdictions should standardize some of the music that's used in lodges if you're trying to connect a specific piece of music to a part of the initiatic experience in Freemasonry? I don't know of any Grand Lodges that do that, but it's just something interesting to think about.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do. The United Grand Lodge of England, the emulation rite, the organist is a major part of the actual ceremonies. That's actually set pieces. I've been fortunate to see a third degree emulation, and organ music plays a significant role in that ritual. I mean, every aspect of it, from where they are, is a different song, specified song, and I think it highlights a lot because the difference between ours and theirs is that There's a little bit more talking, a lot more explanatory stuff. Ours isn't. And so I think the music accentuates that. It allows, you to hear both, this rushing sound of an organ as words are being spoken to you. And just like what Juan was saying, it helps you memorize, helps you understand, and helps you figure that out. Of course, it's kind of interesting when you read now all the different articles coming out of England where they kind of bemoan the fact that nobody's learning the organ anymore. And so a lot of lodges are having a tough time. There's an organist who will show up pretty much every night of the week, the same guy for different lodges just to play for that lodge, or they'll have a CD to take care of that. And so,
Yeah, Jason and I were talking in the green room about really the organ. I mean, no disrespect to all the great organists that are out there, but it really is a symbol of kind of a bygone era, and that, to your point, fewer and fewer people are learning it. It's the same guys who are getting kind of long in the tooth, and it just there could be so much more done with, I don't know, lodge DJs or something to that effect, where you can have a variety. You don't have to depend on one guy to learn this complicated instrument. In some of the comments that we'll get to, talk about people that sing, people that play strings, and that kind of thing. That's also music.
Yeah, actually, to that point, Acacia 16's musician is brother Jimmy Cole, who's a jazz guitarist, and he's fantastic. He brings in his acoustic guitar, and when he comes to lodge meetings, it's just a whole different atmosphere.
Awesome.
One thing that you made me think about, talking about the organ, it reminds me of certain styles of music, and we touched upon jazz. I personally absolutely love jazz, and at one point in time, jazz wasn't regarded as a good influence. You could have people that were completely fighting against it, saying that it was detrimental to, that it encouraged I don't know how to explain
nefarious, illicit activis, immoral activities. Yeah.
Exactly. And I look at it today, I'm like, how is that even possible when I think jazz is so beautiful? And in Puerto Rico, and this is a cycle that keeps on going. In Puerto Rico, for those of you who know what salsa is, salsa at one point was what today, not even today, what 20 years ago was like hip-hop music. Hip-hop music where people were fighting, saying that's music of the street, that's not classy, I don't want you listening to that music. Salsa, which I've heard, for the Puerto Ricans that might be watching the show, Gilbertito Santa Rosa, who is, they call him the Knight of Salsa. This guy is a gentleman that okay, I'm geeking out here on music.
That's okay.
His medium is salsa, and he played in Carnegie Hall with a symphony. Played salsa music. What 50 years ago would have been considered like crass music of the street. Now, if we not allow, but if a jurisdiction says no, you can't have this type of music related to the degrees or related to something, it will trump the evolution of the musical genre that perhaps 50 years from now it's going to be considered, a fully respectable genre of music. So I'm not a fan about, saying, yeah, you can have only I don't know, strings and organs, but you can't have any, electronic sounds. Dubstep.
Oh, nice.
I agree. I think some general guidelines are good to give people inspiration. To say, okay, you want to make sure your music is respectful and appropriate to what's going on. And then from there, I think, innovation is the way to go, and just trust your lodge musicians and your worshipful masters governing those lodge musicians to come up with some really wonderful ways to express with music the way they feel about the fraternity. With that, what are they talking about on Facebook and Twitter, John?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you did a good teaser last night around 8 o'clock where you actually asked, "Are there any lodge musicians out there? What instruments have you seen played?" And really sparked a lot of good discussion on there. The majority of you guys have uh, organists in the lodge and/or are organists or are fans of the organ, right? So again, my comments earlier about the organ. While I still stand by them, a lot of you guys like the organ music. Good for you, but it's complicated.
It's not for everybody.
But it definitely adds a nice touch. They play organ at our Alexandria Scottish Rite Valley, and it does add to the degree system. So that alone is worth it.
Well, it's totally the organ sound, if it's like an older organ, awesome sound, right? But
Mhm.
those 60s style organs, you sit there and you go, honestly, is
The
Austin
World
Powers
Series,
going to
yes.
show up? It's it's like, this sounds terrible.
And the difference between one musician and another is from heaven to earth.
True.
I've heard some
And
where,
sometimes hell.
yeah, and exactly. I remember during an installation I attended, the way in which the organ was played, it reminded me of the circus. I couldn't get it out of my mind, the sound of. I know. I'm like,
Thunder
oh
and
man.
blazes.
And it was detracting from the whole seriousness of the event. And the same organ that other people would play, and it would sound very, very solemn, and I don't know. So it's,
Mhm.
I guess you could do that with any instrument.
Yep.
It's not about the instrument, it's the way you use it and how you use it to further the Masonic experience.
It's how you use your organ. Got it. Also, on the event page, a lot of you also have mentioned Mozart's The Magic Flute. And I've written a paper on that, very passionate about that. For those who don't know, one of Mozart's last operas was one called Die Zauberflöte, which is the Magic Flute. And in it, it's supposed that he took some liberties and added some Masonic themes into the opera. There's been lots of papers written on it, and I really encourage you guys to do some research on there, including there were some books shared on the event page that we'll repost on our page to talk about that. Very interesting. It does have some thematic elements as well. Lance Cates builds on that, and you mentions that, hey, let's talk about music itself, how it can insert feelings just by the musical selection. He says when musicians want you to feel sad, they play something in a minor key. Marches really invigorate you, that kind of thing. So really what we're talking about, and I'll give credit to Jason for digging this up, is music semiology. It's the study of signs and how they are built into music at different levels. Think of it as how music makes you feel based on the tone, the style, the speed, the tempo, the timbre. That music is a beautiful art, and when used appropriately, can enhance the experience. And so, definitely look into music semiology and how that's applied. I mean, Lance hit the nail right on the head. Music itself can be a symbol. Let's see. Someone else visited AW22. Donnie Dillon visited AW22 in Alexandria and also had the same reaction I did, that it definitely added to the experience.
There is an interesting post I saw from, let me see, from Jason Mitchell, who says, it's a controversial topic because I really like ritual silence.
Mm-hmm.
And then, music in other periods. So what do you guys think about striking the balance between silence, solemnity, and music?
Well, I think he needs to move to Minnesota to begin.
Yeah. Way to go, Nick.
I know, it's like dead air. It's beautiful. But the thing is, it's like I've been in a lodge where it's very solemn. They know where the quiet parts are and where the parts that are allowed. Music makes sense, right? And then I was in a lodge where all of a sudden somebody was playing dur, 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 in the third degree. It's like, oh God,
Yeah.
no, seriously, is this what we're gonna do here? And it's like, This is so embarrassing. I mean, and the guy, he was just like, just the organist was just laughing it up. Dur, 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 dur,
Now, see,
dur.
I'm with you there. I would
That was
rather
hilarious.
have silence there than just cheesy, awful music inserted
Yeah.
just for the sake of music.
Yeah.
One of
Well,
the one of the websites I went to when I was trying to figure out what kinds of music to insert into the business meetings and the ritual, it said something to the effect of it gave a list of pieces to play at each part, and one of the pieces was like, hi ho, it's off to work we go. It's like,
Oh,
no,
no.
never.
who thinks
Yeah.
that is awesome? Nobody.
Well, I was reading today, doing some research for tonight's episode, and there was a brother saying of an experience where there was a degree, and there were 3 candidates, and when they were brought into the lodge room for their portion of the ceremony, the organist started playing Three Blind Mice, but did it in such a, it wasn't really obvious. It was his own rendition of Three Blind Mice, and he recognized it, and for him, it was, it was a positive experience. I don't know how I would have reacted to it,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. And I understand the brother's comment about that ritualistic silence, because when music is played, you are at the mercy of whomever is playing the music.
hmm
And if you are moved to anger, if you move to sadness, you can't escape it. The only thing you can do, cover your ears, or you are at the mercy of the sound waves.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to mention too was on Twitter we had Rockingham Union 27. I forget the brother's name who.
Donnie Dillon.
Donnie Dillon runs the site. So
Yep.
he picked up on the fact that Jason was a, for lack of a better term, a lodge DJ, and so with that has already put together a nice picture of what DJ DJFC in the house. So the next time you go to lodge, Jason, if you could strap on your dead mouse
Dead mouse.
ears, that would be awesome.
Actually, I'm going to petition Robert Johnson to put that picture on as my bio for the Midnight Freemasons.
Nice.
Lodge DJ extraordinaire.
That's awesome. So we're running pretty close to time. So let's go around and do final thoughts and shameless plugs, starting with Brother Nick.
Sure. I'm of the opinion that music can have a good effect in lodge. I've been to TO lodges, and I think when I'm sitting there and I'm hearing Debussy, played, for me, I like more modern 18th century stuff, not 16th, 17th century stuff. And so when I hear that, it really takes me into the meeting. It's a darkened space, and I can hear the music, and I can feel the music, and it kind of creates this reverberation, and it recharges my battery, really. And so I think music is really effective in that way, but sometimes the music is just terrible. No, don't do that. Just don't, please.
Nice.
But yeah, and music is a tool, just like anything else. It's one of the seven liberal arts and sciences. So just use it like that. Don't especially the organist sets a lot of the tone, and so he should know.
Pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. Hey-o. So yeah. And my own Grand Lodge has an opening and closing ode that I don't think anybody does except for one lodge, and I love I know how to sing them, and so it's like, now our social labor's closing, homage of the heart we pay, each in confidence reposing, kindest thoughts that ne'er decay. I love that sound, and I
Wow.
think it really closes a lodge well, in my
That was
opinion.
actually pretty good.
Well, thank you. But nobody ever does it, so it just kind of bums me out that I know something that nobody ever uses. But anyway, my name is Nick
Until they
Johnson. I
watch
run a
this
blog.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't
Now
that
they're
your
like,
purpose in life?
yeah, I will reveal everything. You want to know about a virtual lodge? I got your in. But anyway, Nick Johnson, millennialfreemason.com. I just released a new story from a brother and Sir Knight who poses the question: should Knights Templar be open to everybody? It's a very interesting article, and I hope you come on out and check it out. And thank you guys for watching the show. This is just a labor of love for all of us, and so thank you very much.
Great. Brother Juan.
Well, this was a very interesting topic. When I first found out about it, I thought, well, I don't think I have anything to contribute. But I think I was wrong. I mean, music really has been an important part in my personal journey and also in my Masonic journey, even though I didn't really ever stop to think about it. And I really enjoyed all these different points of view. This is another one of those topics that I think there's a lot more material to cover. There's so much. There's so much that I really enjoyed it. And as always, I encourage you, brothers, if you're hearing this episode through iTunes, make sure to subscribe. And if you can, give us a rating. Let us know what you think about it. Sometimes we put the show together and we hear from here and there, but the people that don't know the show, they really benefit from knowing what the listener's opinion is. So if you can give us a rating and a review on iTunes, that would really help us a lot. It'll help other brothers or other people interested in Freemasonry actually get to learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to click subscribe. And in the comments below, let us know what your experience has been with music and Freemasonry. Do you think it really should play a part in your lodge ceremonies? Do you think it should be a silent experience? Just let us know what you think, what your experience has been in the comment sections here, and also in the social network that we belong to. Very quick, on September 11th, I will be in Hollywood Lodge in Tampa, Florida. And in October the 20th, I'm going to be in Dunedin Lodge number 192 in Dunedin, Florida. So if you were in the area, I would love to come and, I would love to meet you there. And I'll give you more details of that at thewindingstairs.com, where I podcast and blog. Thank you, brother.
Great. Brother John.
All right, thanks, Jason. See, my final thoughts on this topic include the fact that music is one of the ways we experience the five senses, right? And so as part of that initiatory experience, we really get the ability to take in a lot of those senses. And so I'm sure some of you can even remember some of the smells of the lodge, some of the old wood and some of the ancient furniture that you have in the lodge. I'm not going to go somewhere else with that. But the things that you see, the things that you hear, while silence can give you time to digest, I really think you're not giving a candidate a full opportunity to add that repertoire to his initiatory experience. I mean, I think this is where Andrew Hammer does a good job explaining this and observing the craft. He also goes on to say that we should be using incense to have a smell associated to that. So, we could be building on top of what we see, we touch, we hear, we see. And I'm not going to taste anything, but this is just one more thing that can add to the sensory experience. And I think it's really something that, if done tastefully, will really enhance the thing that we are trying to accomplish. And to that point, just like where people say, what should you wear to lodge, and how most people would agree that you want to dress up a little bit, same thing with music, that our music should be dressed up a little bit for lodge. And so let's stay away from the cheesy tunes and the little musical jokes and rise up to a higher level of musical dress. With that, thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for the kind words sent to myself and my family regarding the birth of our third daughter this week. So we've been losing lots of sleep, and it's been a great experience. With that, please please check out www.themasonic.roundtable, share it with your friends, post some comments, and don't forget to donate. Thank you very much. Back to you, Jason.
All right, thanks, John. For my final thoughts, I'd like to read something out of the presentation volume that the Grand Lodge of Virginia gives to all Master Masons. And it specifically has to do with the charge given to the musician at his installation. And it's an open ceremony. It's for anybody, so I'm not spouting off any Masonic secrets. The gift of music which you bring to our meetings is truly a work of art. From the patriotic songs which complement our opening ceremonies, to the inspiring marches rendered when new members are brought into our order, richly enhance the meaning of the words spoken on those occasions. As harmony is the strength and support of our institution, so may the harmonies which you render as a musician strengthen and support the work of this lodge. And I think that's just a beautiful summation of the good that music can bring when it's used to enhance what's going on in the ritual and the Masonic proceedings. So, of course, everything within good measure and moderation. Go ahead and innovate. You don't have to play the same classical piece over and over again. You can take some stuff from modern music if you'd like. There's no wrong way to go about it as long as you're respectful and as long as you're trying to accentuate the Masonic experience for everybody else. So my name's Jason Richards. I am the blogger at the 2 Foot Ruler, Masonry in Plain Language. You can actually see it right there. I am also, as of this week, the latest regular contributor to the Midnight Freemasons blog, so I'll have another post coming out on that blog here sometime soon talking about the opportunity of Masonry.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And one last thing I wanted to talk about was actually this bow tie I'm wearing tonight, which is made by an 11-year-old girl who designs all of her bow ties and makes them and uses at least 30% of the proceeds to go directly to the Shriners Hospital of Tampa. So her website is actually called About the Neck, and it's www.abouttheneck.com. And she only has maybe 8 or 10 bow tie choices. But it's a great cause. I love my bow ties, and I'm definitely going to be buying another couple ones from this young lady because it's great to see someone so junior taking an interest in the fraternity and helping others. And the Shriners Hospital is just a phenomenal charity and does amazing work, so I'm happy to help them whenever I can. Outside of that, thank you all so much for listening. Keep the conversation going. Let us know what you think about tonight's episode and where you think music has a place in the fraternity. And with that, we'll see you back next week. Keep searching for more light.